And now we'll move now to this next part, which is something we don't have more often. I think last time we had debates was last year, I was told. Thank you, Paul, for gracing us with your presence. And I will hand over to you for this part of the program to facilitate the debate.
Okay.
Thank you very much. And please join me, ladies and gentlemen, as I welcome Paul on stage.
Thank you very much. Toastmaster.
Thank you.
Okay, before we start with a little introduction spiel, I just want to do a sanity check with Stefan here on something slightly administrative. It was a bit of a rush when we came in earlier. Do you want to do this format, or do you want to just do best debater format?
Paul, you are the better debater between the both of us, so what do you think would be appropriate for this?
Okay, then we'll actually cover it in the intro. Okay, but I think that the easiest one for a small group like this will just be we vote on who is the best debater.
In that case,
Okay.
thank you.
So we have been. I'm at TAG usually, which is just down the road from here, another old boys club. Pretoria Boys Old High School Old Boys Club, and we have been trying to introduce debates again there to spice things up. We've done a lot of different forms of public speaking this year, including the traditional Toastmasters format. Very briefly, I think if you're going to do debate, it's like, I would say, your table topics on steroids. Okay? There's an expectation placed upon you that you are going to perform. And maybe it's slightly higher than when you're doing a normal public presentation. And the rationale, the reason for that, is because you're in contest. And I want to make that clear for tonight's speakers as well. Regardless of your personality type, you are in contest. And so I want to just touch a couple of topics so that you can feel comfortable around this. Personally, whilst I like debates, it's actually not my most favourite form of public speaking. I like the dialectical. And so I like the idea that two people or more come together and they're not in contest and they're not using emotion and they're not using rhetoric as much as possible. They're trying to find the truth in a difficult topic, or the truths, and they're trying to find proportion and balance in a difficult discussion. And that's the dialectical. And so the dialectical can be about two experts, let's say, or can be two gifted amateurs coming to trying to get to a conclusion. On the other hand, debate is a contest. Debate is putting your verbal sparring boxing gloves on and tackling each other. It's not always fair. It's not always about who has the best topic or the most popular approach to a particular topic. It's also fair to say that when we're doing something like debate, it's an artificial construct. And so I want to emphasise that briefly tonight, if I may, for the both of you, in that I'd like to see, the other day I saw a debate and it was like two old men smoking cigars and having a quiet discussion with each other. Okay? I think you've got to have a competitive spirit in this. There has to be a competitive edge. And if you're going into competition debate, which I believe you are in a couple of weeks' time, then you need to sharpen that edge. Lastly, on that subject of sharpening, you can undertake something that's essentially ad hominem attack. Okay, the fancy word for it is where you really are quite aggressive. So you become quite personal. Now that's a style of debating that's, for example, classically associated with the rough and tumble of, say, parliamentary debate. And I don't personally like it, but it's a clever style. It's a one-upmanship style. I don't think that it's intellectually clever, but it's emotionally clever. I'm not suggesting that you do that tonight. Okay? Okay? So we're going to be somewhere between not the dialectical and not the ad hominem attack. I would call it classical debate. So I hope that's what we see, but there are no holds-barred approach to it on this very important topic of pancakes versus waffles. Which is better? Now the last thing that I would say about this is, how do we vote on this? If we were looking at whether Hamas or the Israeli Defense Forces might prefer pancakes or waffles, and we might be starting from a non-neutral position, we may have a position of individual bias, it's very useful to consider a voting slip like this. And the voting slip means that you acknowledge before the debate starts your individual preference. I prefer waffles or I prefer pancakes. And in a contentious debate setting, that sets us a baseline. What you then do at the end of the debate is you vote again, and we see whether the debaters have moved you either into a neutral position, where you were previously, let's say, agree or disagree, or you've taken now the opposing position from your initial viewpoint, your initial, what I'll call your intrinsic, your natural stance. And in that case, whether the person has moved you to neutral or moved you to your polar opposite position from your initial position, that debater has gained a point, and so they win that point. In something where we're in a tiny group setting like this, I think the fairest thing to do, and to make it more boxing match-like, is I'm hoping that there aren't any massively strenuous opinions on whether pancakes are better than waffles. So I think what we do is we simply vote for the best debater. And the best debater can be the most interesting, the way in which they've developed their points, the most successful in argumentation. Let's hope that it's a thoroughly contentious debate, gentlemen. And with that, sorry, before we introduce, Lynette has a point of order.
Can I just set the timing for each?
Yes, so the initial speeches, the format for the debate tonight is going to be initial speeches. Each person will receive 5 minutes each. Then there's normally a questions and rebuttal session. I think usually in short format, this is all short format, okay? One-on-one debating, short format. In short format, we'd often give 10 minutes for questions and rebuttals, but I think we might run out of pancake batter in that time. So I think we might shorten it from, down. That would be 10 minutes on either side, and we'll have one person asking questions and the other person answering them, and then the back and forth between the two of them. And then the last part will be a closing speech. And the closing speech, I think, should just be 1 to 2 minutes. That should be sufficient on this topic. That should end the sizzle. And then after that, what we can do for a few minutes is allow the floor to open. But I would suggest that you vote at the end of the closing speeches. All right? In other words, the opponents are not being judged on how they handle the entire floor. They're being judged on how they handle each other one-on-one with the boxing gloves on. Okay? That's what they're being judged on. The filler time at the end is where we can ask general questions if you have burning desires to find out about some particular pancake or waffle recipe. So without further ado, can I ask for the proposer of pancakes are better than waffles, to please join me on the floor. So, for the proposition, pancakes are better than waffles, Steph takes the lead. Thank you.
Steve, I think on the 4, 4.5, 5, or 3, 4, 5.
3, 4, 5. Thank you very much. I just need to time myself as well. Not that I really need to time myself, because the fact is pancakes are better than waffles. Ladies and gentlemen, for various reasons. First and foremost, there are various forms of pancakes. They are also called hot cakes, griddle cakes, or flapjacks, or even an egg omelette. And those, well, it can be quite, you can do a lot with it, ladies and gentlemen, all those variations. I mean, while researching pancakes, I came across dozens and dozens of different styles of pancakes, or types of pancakes, all with their slight variations from what we are normally used to as South Africans, our pannenkoeken, as they are called, which is traditionally filled with, which is traditionally more crepe style, if I'm not mistaken, with lots of cinnamon sugar inside. We even have in Chinese, a Chinese pancake, which is essentially Chinese flatbread. Or even, well, a Kaiserschmarrn, which is a sweet pancake dish. I'm not sure where is that from. But anyway, you see, I can literally show you the list of different types of pancakes, ladies and gentlemen. Another way we can judge or decide which one is better, pancakes or waffles, it is pancakes by the way, is what are pancakes made out of? Pancakes, as it's known today, consists of, well, a pancake batter consists of flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, milk, butter, and a leavening agent, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, eggs. And how is it made? You don't need a specific instrument to make waffles, to make those square-shaped waffles. You need a frying pan, or a griddle, or even a springform pan in the oven, ladies and gentlemen, that's all you need. You don't even need electricity to make a pancake. And fun fact, pancakes are the oldest of the bunch. Don't ask me, but ask Cratinus, an ancient Greek Athenian author. As he said in one of his poems, a pancake hot and shredding morning dew, ladies and gentlemen. Now that guy was alive between 579 BC and 422 BC. Ladies and gentlemen, that is more than 2,500 years ago, in that form of a pancake, from ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Granted, the ingredients and the method was slightly different, seeing as it was made from wheat, flour, olive oil, honey, and curdled milk. But it was still a pancake, ladies and gentlemen. That's the old school pancake, and as with food, we get evolution. Now, granted, my dear opponent here might say, no, but say something about waffles, that waffles are a form of pancakes, and he'll be right. It's the same ingredients, just different ratios. The fact is, pancakes are more flexible. You can do so much more with pancakes. I had a pancake for breakfast in the form of an omelette. Like I mentioned earlier, an omelette is also known as an egg pancake, ladies and gentlemen. You can make it fattening, you can make it healthy, you can do whatever you want with it. My pancake of choice is egg, oats flour or almond flour with mashed banana in a little pan, and I'm good to go. A healthy breakfast and a nutritious breakfast, or I can have a lovely fattening pancake for dessert. Lunch, I can even have a pancake for lunch, an omelette for lunch if I want to. Ladies and gentlemen, is it really a debate for which one's better, pancakes or omelettes? Let's just stick with the one that has the longest history and is mentioned by various famous authors, including Shakespeare himself. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steph. Thank you very much for an absolutely non-flat introduction to the topic, and hopefully the sizzling will continue as we now invite Bertus to discuss the merits of waffles and the demerits of pancakes as he takes the position against.
Thanks for that. Mr. Debate Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, imagine this. You have this plate of waffles, scrunches like that, just like that, and you have this pile of about 3 or 4 of them just staggered onto one another. And you put some syrup or honey on that, you put ice cream, something scrumptious. It is crispy because of the ingredients, more butter, more egg, unlike pancake, which is just kind of flat. And in that way, it's not scrumptious in that way, it's not crispy like the waffle is. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is definitely one of the big benefits. There's just no contention about it. Waffles are better than pancakes. So the ingredients of waffles may be very similar to that of pancakes, but it is really a distinct type of food, and we eat it under different circumstances. Another thing that adds to the scrumptiousness is this pockets or segments that it forms, the syrup and the ice cream will lie in that, and it will nicely mix up with the waffle in that way. It has more bulk, and that means you might have a bit less of it, and you still feel full simply by looking at it and then eating a bit less than you would of pancakes. It's also convenient because you can take waffles, you can put it away and get it crispy again by putting it in the toaster, whereas you cannot really do that with a pancake. Imagine trying to slip a pancake into your toaster. That is going to be quite a mess that you're going to form. I actually want to contest some of the things that my honourable member is saying, and that is that he calls an omelette an egg pancake. Now, maybe semantically some people like to call it a kind of a pancake, but there's really no flour in it, it's a pure omelette. So I assume you can blend in a bit more and more and more flour, some of the time you'll reach what we traditionally call a pancake, but there's some place where there's just egg, where it's not really truly a pancake, even if people call it like that. And then what makes you say that you do not need electricity that you do not need electricity for a pancake? That might be true, but who says you cannot do that with a waffle? I'm sure when waffle started, and you can go and check the facts, that people did actually make it before they had electricity. You just use a stove, a coal stove, whatever it's called in English. I don't have the word now, but they can do it. And then bringing up the history, surely that's interesting, but considering that food, well, 2,500 years was the number you mentioned, considering that food is something that changes all the time and people are experimenting with it and putting new toppings and things like that, why should the history determine that pancakes are more important than waffles? Pancakes are definitely not more important than waffles. The more modern thing in that sense is than waffles, and that means both waffles to me is better than pancakes. For us also, waffles are something special. Again, I would come back to the thing is that this is a really scrumptious treat that is very good to eat. And you can put whatever topics you like on it, you can put more or less sugar in it and change the constitution or the makeup of that. And ladies and gentlemen, I still insist there's no contention. waffles are better than pancakes. Mr. Debate Chair.
Thank you for that highly succinct lecture, almost, I would say, where there was almost no waffle on your part, but the delivery of interesting fact. So now we come to the challenging part of this gripping and contentious debate, which is really where the two, it's gloves off, it's bare knuckle boxing time, it's questions and rebuttals on the nature of pancakes versus waffles. I will take this away because we don't want you to have something to strike each other with other than simply your verbal punches. In fact, just to increase the energy, I'm going to encourage you to stand, not to sit. Okay? Yeah. Come on, neither of you are that old that you need to sit. I think let's have this on the floor. Energy stand. I want to see some punchiness in the questions and rebuttals. The form that this will take to some degree is that we are going to, you are going to start. In fact, against is going to start. So you are going to be the first person to question, and then we'll do it back and forth until I give you an indication that we've seen enough blood.
Or maple syrup.
Maximum time for this session is 10 minutes.
And I'm coming to a decision.
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Chairman, and to my honourable opponent, I just want to check, does the audience see us? I think they do. You can check for me. Thanks, Mr. Opponent.
Right, let's stand.
So, from my side, how is it that when I present you with this waffle with all the scrumptious toppings like the honey and so on, I'm asking that you can really, and the bread which is blended with the waffle, that you can really prefer to go for that pancake that you try to like so much.
Well, that is, while pancakes, while waffles, I would slightly admit they are more crunchy and scrumptious. They are not absorbent. So if you would eat a waffle just as is, it will be dry. And it just won't taste that lekker, as we say in Afrikaans. Pancakes, on the other hand, are much more absorbent. They absorb the flavors of whatever you put on top of it. And in my book, it makes pancakes much more delicious than waffles. Now, I would like to ask you, since you said waffles are so scrumptious and crispy, I believe pancakes are more versatile. So what's stopping me, and by the way, never trust a skinny chef, now what's stopping me to say that, or to say that, to ask, why can't you just use a waffleized pancake batter to make a pancake that is pretty much just a waffle minus more squares?
Ladies and gentlemen, never trust, he said, never trust a skinny chef, but that is because the waffles is the more healthy choice. But I did explain during my presentation, during my constructive talk here, that I was saying that it is more bulky, and you may actually be eating less, you are actually eating less than the pancake, or it looks more than the pancake, and therefore you would eventually eat less, so it's a healthier choice. As far as morphing a pancake into a waffle, at some point you no longer have a pancake and you have a waffle, and if I move back to a pancake at some stage, you have a make a waffle. So I don't think there's much water in that argument. And I actually contest the absorptivity of a pancake, because if it's already more moist, how can it actually absorb more than something that's more scrumptious and crispy? Another question.
You're welcome to deliver another question.
So, coming to the historical part. So you've studied how long ago this pancakes originated. Now I haven't gone and studied how long ago the waffles have originated. I still want an explanation of why the history makes the food stuff something more important than the food stuff that is younger than it.
Well, firstly, and if I may come back to the original argument, I presented a very healthy pancake recipe. Did you forget that? You don't need to answer that. But my argument was pancakes are more versatile. You come back to the historical validity. Well, how many famous authors or world-renowned authors have mentioned waffles compared to pancakes? Pancakes were mentioned 2,500 years ago, plus minus. Even Shakespeare talks about pancakes, in quite a few of his plays. Case in point, in one As You Like It from 1599, ladies and gentlemen, where, although it was the fool, Touchstone, he said it, of a certain knight that saw by his honour they were good pancakes, and saw by his honour the mustard was naught. Now, I'll stand to it, the pancakes were naught, and the mustard was good, and yet was it not knight forsworn? It doesn't matter what it says. The bottom line is, he spoke about it. Now, the oldest normally gets the credits for things. And pancakes being older than waffles, and actually being a parent to waffle, does make pancake the better of the two, does it not? And since it is even more versatile. Now, I'd like to ask you another question. Now, I'd like to ask you a question. Which has more records, world records? Pancakes or waffles?
Frankly, I do not know.
Because you didn't do your homework. Sorry, you were saying?
Regardless of what the world records are like, does it still mean it's the better thing to eat? I don't think so. Again, people make their choices not based on these records. People make their choices based on how it tastes to them, how much it excites them to eat this piece of food, and when they are being social, because food is not just about eating, food is about being social around it. So imagine this, you can eat your pancakes with friends and family, but I'm for sure if I did present waffles to my family, I do know that they will actually be quite excited about getting these waffles, especially if there's a bit of ice cream, or if on it, or there is a bit of honey on it, and so on. So the history doesn't matter to them. They are just living in the moment and enjoying it when it is there. How much time do we have? Another question?
If you have another question and there is time.
It's now 7:25.
Okay.
Well, I don't have a comment. So that sounds like my Mr. Waffle and pancake. It sounds like the dessert I had yesterday. Just a little bit more crispy with that delicious ice cream and some healthy berries. Unlike crispy pancake. Not waffle, crispy pancake. And now I'd like to ask you something.
Steph, you just asked a question just now. So it'll have to be Bert's turn first. And it may be the last question.
The convenience factor is there. The way to freeze and store, you can freeze both, by the way. You can freeze both. But you cannot simply put the pancake into the toaster, whereas I can take the, if it's given as a supplement, I've either made and stored or I get it for convenience at the shop, I can put it in the toaster. The convenience factor of it is much higher. You have to defend how it is really that convenient to make a pancake, because pancakes can be quite messy.
You said pancakes can be quite messy.
Yes.
Well, so can waffles. The batter is more or less the same. I don't see the relevance of the argument. It's about the neatness and experience of the chef, or the cook in this case, I would say. Okay. Now, one thing I would like to ask you is, if I can give you the phrase flat as a pancake, according to the Oxford Dictionary, which has been a catchphrase since 1611, much like the arguments about waffles, can you give me a catchphrase about waffles?
Texture, interesting, like a waffle, because there's just no texture in a pancake, so a waffle is much more interesting.
But what's the catchphrase?
There might not be something in the dictionary. I have not studied the dictionary for that, but surely I know that I love the waffle with its toppings.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have a mop and bucket so I can just wipe up the blood? Thank you very much for doing that in a less than gentlemanly way and managing the debate in an excellent manner. I thought it was a good little contest there. We're not at the end. We now come to our closing speech. I would say the maximum time for the closing speech should be 2 minutes. In that time, you should be able to quite quickly prepare your pancake or waffle. So, to raise for the closing speech, I'll ask you to come first, actually, proposing again, please.
Oh, I think it was everyone first in the room.
I did it the other way for him for the rebuttals, so I'll ask you to do the closing speech.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lynette, if I'm asking, do you have any children? What a wonderful job you must have done raising them, knowing you. Ladies and gentlemen, the parent gets the credit for raising a wonderful child. Like Waffles must give its credit to Pancakes for creating such a wonderful batter. Ladies and gentlemen, Pancakes outnumber Waffles 5-1. I'm willing to bet you, it's a fact, not a bet, that somewhere in quite a few places this wonderful morning in Kenya, people had a form of a pancake for breakfast. Like I say, pancakes, if it's in terms of variety and flexibility, outweighs its naughty child, the waffle. You know what? Do I really need to substantiate my answers? I've already given it all away. Pancakes are better than waffles. It's more flexible, yes. Omelets is a form of a pancake because it still has some of the ingredients you don't need all of the ingredients, but you need the variation of the ingredients and the methods. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what, I'm just going to show you. This is a list of the type of, or varieties of pancakes among the countries. 1, 2, and 2.5 pages. Ladies and gentlemen, pancakes, that is actually an accident, are much easier to make. Thank you.
Our closer for the argument that waffles are in fact better than pancakes, in other words, the opposition, the against argument, please welcome again Bertus to the floor.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Debate Chairman, my opponent has done something that should not happen in debating. He actually brought new facts to the table and showed us new pieces of paper while he was giving his closing argument. That shows that this case is not as strong as he wants to pretend it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, he said, for instance, that 5 times more pancakes are made. People eat 5 times more pancakes than waffles. But that's the very reason why it's not so special and great as waffles are. The fact that it's easier and so on, as he claims that it is, means that it is not as special. People will simply not make it as much. So that's why waffles become special. I have told you about the differences and that it is more bulky and therefore you'll eat slightly less and it's healthy and the topics blend nicely with the segments or the squares on top of the waffle. It's convenient in the way that you make it. I still believe and can convince you that this, and I know for sure that in my family waffles are more true than they would consider pancakes to be. Mr. Debate Chair.
Thank you very much.
You did know I showed the piece of paper in my opening statement.
No rebuttals. Well, I don't think I've ever had to be enthralled by a debate on pancakes versus waffles before, so that's always a first, but I think you did very well, gentlemen. To close this down, I would like to do 2 things. The first is I would like us to count the votes at this point in time. I think we have enough information that you should be able to vote. You don't even have to write it down. I think we can do this on a show of hands. To those online, I would ask that you only vote if you heard the debates sufficiently well. If you feel that you heard both parties well, then feel free to vote. So initially I just want a show of hands. I'm sorry, it's not going to be anonymous. We're just going to do it plain and bold. So for those who believe in this setting that Stefan delivered an excellent reasons as to why you should prefer pancakes and is the preferred debater of tonight, can I see a vote of hands? The debaters are not allowed to vote themselves.
Gwyneth says that her initial preference was for waffles, but she said he froze, which means either me or Steph froze.
Okay.
And punching, I'm not sure what she's doing, she might have fallen asleep.
All right, we'll see whether she votes or not. So at the moment we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, for Steph. And against? Now I can't stay neutral in this, can I really? So okay, but it's I think a clear winner if there's nothing late in from the online forum.
No, but punching is biased, she's my wife.
Then in that case, I think to announce tonight's winner, I have to say, commiserations to the waffler. And please, would you accept our congratulations?
Please go on there, Julie.